Hi, everyone. Today with Maciej, we are delighted to present you BNP business case as an example of extraordinary system transformation. And we'll answer why it can become the best e-banking ecosystem in the world. We'll touch a few strategy directions which bank can take to take the most benefits of the platform economy and what you can use, you can miss when you miss this train. But before we start, do you remember your first day? More precisely, do you remember your first day at bank or financial institutions? How the system and technology has changed for this 10, 20, 30 years? When I started my career in Citi in business and later on corporate banking, there was a product approach, and the technology has changed and is still changing. And this example of BNP Paribas case, they have the strategy of creating the best e-banking ecosystem for companies in the world. What does it mean? It means that the system needs to meet banking needs, but not only bank it needs to give positive experience and time savings. The bank focused on 4 elements. The introduction of the newest technology based on the microservices to make the system easier and simpler of scaling. They focus on user friendliness. The system needs to be simple, intuitive, and attractive to the eye. They want to make the self-service zone enriched and to make the client self-sufficient. And they had the hardest challenge with migrating all the modules they had in the previous system and adding more to enrich the current offering of the bank.
Yeah, so that was quite a complex transformation when it comes to corporate banking. And naturally, any bank that is approaching such a challenge has a decision to make. So, to buy or to build? This is the question. And it often leads to 2 completely different paths. Banks either want to go for more control, so they want to fully control the process, how the banking system is delivered, or they just want to go for a quicker time to market when they want to launch something in the market quickly and then evolve it. And what we have seen is that those challenges, they have some problems associated with them. First of all, if you want to have full control, if you go into your own development, these are tens of thousands of man days. These are months training the developers, forming the teams, and then building the solution, right? It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, and only the biggest banks can afford that, banks like HSBC, Citi. And on the other hand, if you want to go for something quicker, if you want to go for something off the shelf, this is also an option, but in case of BNP, since they wanted to create something truly unique, it would cost them a lot when it comes to customizations, which were to be made by the software vendor. And the third option that the banks usually have are the local platforms, but since BNP was talking about corporate banking, the local platforms that are today on the market, they don't offer such features like trade finance, like cash pooling. They only have building blocks for retail platforms. So BNP has been our longtime partner, and they have seen the work that we have also done with ING, with which we have won an award for the best corporate digital banking in 2019 by Global Finance, and they came to us and asked, guys, how can you help us with our challenge? How can you help us reach our goals? And this is where we introduced our newest evolution of corporate banking platform called Comarch Open Platform, which combines the best elements of buying and building. So we wanted to offer them the business modules that we've been developing and evolving into microservices for quite some years, together with the ability to co-develop, so to form mixed teams in order to be able to achieve the goals in the quickest fashion with the least possible involvement of our resources instead of focusing on the growing bank's IT. And this was made possible thanks to those business modules that were available, the architecture, the ability to deploy in the cloud, and ready-made DevOps processes that make the evolution into microservices easy. So what was the timeline of the project?
So the project was scheduled for 3 years, and it started in spring 2020. The bank started with replacement of the basic modules like account, loans, collection. They upgraded the self-service zone and new authorization in line with feedback from the customers. This year, they're replacing other modules like cash, cards, trade finance, deposits. They're improving the UX and UI in a mobile app. to make the maximum process automation. And at the end of the project, they will introduce a dashboard to make the system intuitive. And the project will end at the end of this year. And the old system will be turned off, and the customers can use the new one. And they would like to compete in the new year to the best e-banking ecosystem. And this project was unique because they made an innovation through the design thinking. They engaged the customers from the beginning. They made a series of interviews. They collected the feedback from that, what they need, what exactly should they provide. We work with them in an agile way, so we can concentrate on the needs of the customer, and it can be delivered in an easy and systematically for the customer in the right moment when it's needed. And what are the results of the project? It's a state-of-the-art solution, which is named a Comarch Open Platform, and it is easily configurable. There are like elements. It's cloud-based and in cloud native, with all the microservices that can have the most benefits of that. It's elastic scaling in different business lines, in line with a bank's strategy. There is no maintenance breaks when you introduce new elements and new features, new products. And last but not least, there is easier and faster with integration with fintechs, because we are on the Nordic Fintech Summit.
Yeah, but let's take a step further, because there has been an evolution when it comes to implementation of digital banking platforms. At the beginning of 21st century, it was mostly about the product, so bringing loans, bringing deposits to the digital space where the users could access them through the internet. But what we have seen, and what was confirmed so far by the speakers in the morning, is that banks are now heading towards more of this platform approach, where they want to engage users, where they want to make solutions out of those smaller components, like microservices, combining them through the use of open APIs, agile delivery, and sometimes even fintech integration. So this is happening because there are obvious benefits, right? The banks have new cooperation possibilities which can bring them new revenue streams. And just to see a few examples, we can see that the standard economy of banks is changing. Banks have been previously seen as those specialists, so they were placed here where their brand was highly visible and they were mostly focusing on the products that they were delivering. But according to Seweryn's research, by 2030, the total addressable market that can be addressed by banks through other means will be significantly growing. Like, for example, if you want to provide a marketplace, they assess that it will be between 25 to 50 billion US dollars by 2030. So quite a large piece of pie that can be taken by the banks willing to venture into this area. There are also a few other areas that are even more lucrative. So if the banks want to go a little more into background, providing different services through APIs, or even providing the whole processes through banking as a service approach, this leads to further hundreds of billions of dollars that will be available as part of this market by 2030. So let's examine those possibilities in a little more detail. If you want to create an ecosystem, create a marketplace. This is something where you deliver the platform on which others are creating value, others are providing additional value. Examples include Uber, Airbnb, or Apple. And as you can see, they are taking quite a slice of the revenues that are transferred through the platforms. And this is also something that banks can benefit from. And we can already see some examples.
Yeah, we can give you an example from the US. Like Chase, they have a partnership with Bill.com, so they are providing services of billing and payments, and they are getting the fees from that. Another example is Bank of America. So they provided intelligent recognition of receivables, and they're giving services for the clients and getting fees from that.
Yeah, and integration of such services, it brings new possibilities to the bank. Because when you have those additional services, you have additional data about your clients. And this, in turn, can be it can be turned into tailored content, which means that banks can cross-sell and upsell more effectively if they engage in this marketplace ecosystem economy. But the other way is for the banks to go, let's say, below the radar, where they are providing just back-end services to other providers. And this is quite prevalent in the IT world. You can see this quote from Jeff Bezos, who said that for all of the services that were developed by developers at Amazon, they should be made in such a way as to be externalizable, so that somebody in the open world would be able to access them at some point.
Will you guess the year? What was the year when Jeff Bezos told this word?
Yeah, if you guess it was something recent, it was actually 2002, so 20 years ago, and we can already see some banks catching up. Like, for example, BBVA, they have this open platform. They are exposing APIs like identity verification, like moving money or issuing cards. And those APIs are made available to third-party developers who can embed them into part of their processes. So let's say if they want to do identity verification as part of some kind of onboarding, they could access the API, of course, paying BBVA for the service use. And the same is happening. We have seen that this addressable market is quite huge when it comes to supplying those kinds of services. And Goldman Sachs has already jumped onto this bandwagon because they, previously being just an investment bank, they have launched their platform called Marcus, through which they are also exposing APIs that can be used by outside developers. So as you can see, there are quite few ways that the banks can use to take advantage of these new economies. And just to summarize, if you are thinking about deploying such a platform, it needs to be at the confluence of three major forces. So the bank's IT, who are growing in size, growing in strength, they want to take more responsibility, more control about the solutions that are being delivered. The vendors that have some solutions that can also be used to speed up the process, and the fintechs. So there are some cases that banks wouldn't even touch, but fintechs are delivering them, and including them into the bank's portfolio wouldn't hurt the bottom line, and certainly could help it.
When you think about platforms, you have a new revenue streams. Like banks help customers to managing cash flow, so transactional banking is a base. Later on, when you add value-added service for the customers, you increase engagement, you attract new customers, so you are improving acquisition and retention rates. You can provide the services, so you are getting the fees from the fintech companies or from the other companies based on your services. And on the top of that, it's related to BBVA example. You open your APIs to the other companies, so you can get other revenues for the usage of the data. And there are like plenty of ways to get new revenues, but the question is, build by yourself or buy? Maciej, what's the golden rule?
Yeah, so based on the examples that we have seen from ING, actually the combination of both is the best. So taking into the ready-made modules that are usually not changed when it comes to 80% of processes, and then building on top of that, building something unique that the banks can truly utilize in order to emerge as something unique on the market. And such approach, whenever you are choosing to become, whether you want to become a specialist, you want to stay a specialist, you want to create this marketplace, or you want to venture more into the banking as a service area, whenever you are choosing a banking platform, it needs to allow you to do all of those things.
Yeah, so you are changing your strategy, but remember that you use the latest technology and a good partner to experiment in open banking in different areas. And if you want to know more stories, please let's talk and join our booth in the front of this room.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.